Hello everyone, I've made a lot of changes to the ASCA Spaceplane, including the name, making it an acronym instead of a proper name. Some of those changes has resulted in changes to its mass. And also I realized that I'd made a mistake in the calculation of the mass in that technically there are supposed to be radiators on the wings, but right now those aren't being calculated. This mass is being calculated by far based on the mass strength multiplier here. And so that does not include the radiator mass that would normally go on the wings, which currently aren't appearing because of complications with the model. So I had to build that mass into the body. So there are things like that that have occurred that I have had to take into account. So now the whole thing's heavier. And the question is, what payload capacity can we get to orbit now that it's heavier, of course? But another question that was raised was, why am I using SRBs as boosters for it instead of liquid boosters? Well, these are liquid boosters now. It's got the same skirt and the same nose cone, but in the middle we have a procedural tank here filled with methane and oxygen, and then Pekka's Velocis engines, VE1, with these stats. 7,000 kilonewtons of thrust and good ISP. Now, one reason why I was using SRBs was, of course, because they have a lot of thrust. If you need to pack a lot of thrust into, a relatively small tube, you will go with an SRB. These engines are good enough. They give us 7,000 kilonewtons instead of, say, 11,000 kilonewtons. They are good enough because they're also pushing less fuel. Because they're more efficient, we are carrying less fuel, so then we get off with a decent thrust-weight ratio, and we don't need the 11,000 kilonewtons that the SRBs provide. So the improved efficiency allows us to get away with more. The SRBs also have a much higher dry mass than these tanks plus these engines, because the SRBs are basically one big combustion chamber. And so they have to be very strong, which makes them very heavy. So that is the situation. The question is whether these can get a decent payload to orbit now that I've made changes to the mass here. And we are talking about carrying about 10 tons here. We're carrying 10 tons. You can see we've also got the life support to worry about. But that is what I'm going to be trying to launch, and we'll see if we can make it. So here we are at sunny Tampico. I made sure that the radiators had a red glow by default, and it'll just be like that. Maybe it should be a little bit more muted than it is right now, but the whole thing is somewhat sunny. Alright, and we'll start it off just with a 180 roll, and throttle up, and ignition, and go. And I'm gonna immediately start that off, otherwise we're not gonna turn efficiently. And whoa, come back. I need this little thing to turn down the aerospikes. We'll go with 25. It's not really 25% of the aerospike thrust, because the bottom end of this is still not 0 or anything close to it. We do have to worry about the balance. I've played a minor trick in that the nozzles, the actual engines are offset a little bit, but we could do more of that if necessary. And it might be necessary. I'm gonna throttle down here. Gonna aim for 2 Gs. So now the Velocis engines are throttled to minimum. Gotta bring the aerospikes up a bit more to keep balance so that the pitch doesn't max out. Oh, we're at the limit. Uh-oh. It's not enough. Okay, well, that's not good. Alright, we're gonna have to shift those engines a little bit more. Well, maybe we can get RCS build aid in this case to help. The two engines aren't in symmetry though, so I have to be careful. Oh, and also that skirt is not is actually attached to the engine, so that's weird too. I don't think it's telling me enough information. I mean, we changed the torque a little bit, but clearly that's not enough. And little bits are poking out, so that's not ideal. Uh-oh. Then the nozzle goes too. Maybe I should just tilt the engine instead of trying to shift it. I mean, the engine has 5 degrees of gimbal. So if we tilt it by 5 degrees, it's almost like having 10 degrees of gimbal. If the engine had 10 degrees of gimbal, we wouldn't have to do this. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, well that minimizes the torque there, so that's good. I guess we'll have them tilted like this. If they had 10 degrees of gimbling, we would just say tilt 5 degrees, and then they'll have 5 degrees of gimbling effectively, and that would work out. So, alright. Let's see how this goes. It's probably going to result in sort of a push to one side. We'll see. The SRBs don't have this problem as much because they have a thrust curve, so they actually effectively throttle down by the time they lose fuel. They have less propellant at that point, so since they have less thrust, it all balances out. Alright, here you go. Ignition, and go. Oh, I will need the engine thrust limiter though. And 25% there. So overall the stack is lighter. It's less than 1,000 tons compared to like 1,400 with the SRBs. Also, the attachment points between the boosters and the spaceplane would take less stress like this, of course, because the engines are providing less thrust than the SRBs do. So that would be nicer. Okay, these are going to 0. I'm gonna bring these. Let's just... Well, it seems balanced now because they're tilted, so... But we probably lost some delta V because they're tilted like that. Maybe we didn't need to throttle those up yet. Okay, separation time. Off. Okay, well, they went off properly, more or less. Well, these need to go all the way up, 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 up. Ah, extra ignition use. Well, anyway, it worked at least. Slight inefficiency there then. Rolling. Okay, switching modes. It's a bit tight. Now, if we wanted to increase payload capacity, we could just not be carrying the landing engines or the ISRU unit or the reactors. You know, there's, depending on the mission, optional equipment here. And in total, the optional equipment, well, it depends on how you shake it up, but it's about 10 tons. We're not currently carrying the drills, though. That's one thing we don't have on board right now. But yeah, we're not making orbit with enough to come back down, that's for sure. We'll see if we can make orbit at all. Well, it's orbit, but not with enough to come back down safely. So, not ideal, but let's see how the SRBs compare now that we have a heavier spaceplane to deal with. So, you know, maybe the liquid boosters are still beneficial, or maybe the SRBs are better, but let's find out. Same 10 tons, but with the SRBs. But honestly, to some extent, just the way I'm flying it will make a huge difference. So that's true too. But you can see 1,431 tons compared to just under 1,000 tons for the liquid booster version. Slightly different food and water load, but I don't think that's going to be a huge difference in this case. Here we go. Hopefully it's settled down. Now, for some reason, the SRB version likes to lurch, so we're expecting a lurch. Here we go. And ignition. And go. There's the lurch. Lots more smoke this way. Okay, getting ready for booster sep. And off they go. Throttle up? No, throttle up. Oh, I did the same thing again. Well, that's fair. Technically, in the Blender model, the wing bottoms are tiled. It's just that if you have it like that, you can't put both of them in. It can't be the same wing. You have to have two separate wing pieces. A left wing and a right wing. Right now, they're both the same part. So that's the reason why they're like this right now. Okay, switching mode. And continuing with hydrolocks. Okay, wrapping up orbit here, and it roughly looks like we're gonna end up in the same situation. So, whether it's the SRBs or whether it's the Methane-Oxygen boosters, we need to carry less than the 10 tons we're carrying right now, or we cut down on the optional loading. We have a little bit more with the SRBs, but that might have been my trajectory too. We have about 70 here. Honestly, sometimes the residual randomness might be to blame though, so yeah, it's tight enough that I don't think it's a big difference. And we did carry a slightly different load of water compared to the other versions, so there's that too. So yeah, IOA could work, but then the Methlox version has the benefit of being a little bit lighter on the loading, on the structural loading, so we have less wear and tear to worry about. On the other hand, SRBs are usually cheaper. I don't know how much Pekka's engines cost. 7,000 kilonewton Methlox engines aren't easy to come by, let's face it. So there are not a whole lot of those around. Which is why I went with the SRBs in the first place, of course, because we normally don't have an engine of that kind of thrust. Except for the F1 engine and the RD270, which are both kerosene and oxygen. So yeah. Well, I'll probably add the Methlox option as an option in the manual. So that is a valid booster option for the Spaceplane. And I kept the size of them the same, but in theory we could have physically larger Methlox boosters because we do have enough thrust-weight ratio at the start, so we could get more impulse like that. But I wanted to keep them the same just because then it's a more compelling and convincing drop-in replacement for the original SRBs. So anyway, we'll leave it here for now. There it is in orbit, but not with enough to come back. So some fine-tuning needs to be done, but 10 tons is probably more than I need. It was never meant to be a cargo thing, so I'll try and deal with that. The heaviest payload that I envision for this, incidentally, is a small moon base inflatable. So what will happen is when it lands, it'll open its cargo ramp, which has a lot of clearance. And incidentally, you'll note there's this ramp portion. That's because we don't want the tiles of this actually, getting into the lunar regolith. So that's why we have this ramp that extends out from the center of it. But So that's 2 meters of clearance, and that's about 3 meters of clearance. So we could have a little module here that's on rollers, on wheels, and it rolls out and then goes out and then inflates a bit, and then they can stay in there while this does its ISRU drilling for fuel. And of course, while it's doing the drilling, it's using the reactors, so we don't want them to actually hang out close to the spaceplane when it's doing that. So that's why we have the little rollout module. It's sort of like a tent on the moon, but obviously fully pressurized and all that business. So that module is really what I want to, well, one of the things I want to carry in this, and that's probably the heaviest thing. Potentially also you could have a live-in rover would be a good thing. It can't be a very big one, so unless it too has a way of inflating a bit, but anyway, that's a whole other business. So yeah, that's one of the cargoes that we're looking at here. Or the other cargo is, of course, all the supplies needed to go to Mars. That's another thing that we want to have it be able to carry. So yeah, testing continues. So with that, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do press like. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below, and I'll see you next time.